Today, we're counting down 5 greater Seattle areas, from city neighborhoods to nearby Puget Sound cities, where new food, fashion, and design energy feels especially visible. And the top pick is not the one most people would guess. For this countdown, we're looking across Seattle and its suburbs through a creative lens. Food that shapes a street, design that changes how a place feels, and fashion in the broader sense of visual taste, storefront identity, and what a neighborhood signals when you walk through it. This is not just about the most famous restaurant district or the most photographed block. It is about places where the built environment, local streets, and creative momentum come together in a way that makes the area feel current. The Greater Seattle area has a lot of different versions of that. Some neighborhoods express it through waterfront views and carefully composed residential streets. Others do it through commercial corridors, older buildings, port city texture, or compact blocks where food and design are easy to experience on foot. So, the countdown starts inside Seattle, stretches south to Pierce County, comes back north through the city, and finishes with a Puget Sound surprise. Number 5 is Magnolia. Magnolia starts the countdown because its design identity is hard to miss. It is Seattle's second largest neighborhood by area, northwest of downtown, and it sits on a hilly headland overlooking Puget Sound. That physical setting gives Magnolia a very composed visual character. Slopes, viewpoints, curving streets, and water-facing edges all shaping the experience before you even get to the food conversation. For new food, fashion, and design, Magnolia stands out less as a loud trend center and more as a place where presentation, setting, and neighborhood form matter. What gives Magnolia its place here is the way design shows up in the landscape itself. The neighborhood is not built around one giant nightlife strip or one central retail spectacle. It is more about a polished sense of place, with the hills and sound views doing a lot of the visual work. That matters for this topic because design is not only interiors, signs, or shops. Sometimes the strongest design signal is the feeling of arrival, the way streets frame a view, and the way a neighborhood's geography creates a recognizable look. Magnolia also reminds us that Greater Seattle's creative map is not one-size-fits-all. A place can be relevant to new food, fashion, and design without being the loudest or most crowded destination. Here, the design side leads, and the food and style conversation sits inside a calmer, scenic, urban setting. It is a strong number 5 because it brings a different flavor to the countdown right away. Number 4 is Beacon Hill. Beacon Hill brings the countdown into southeastern Seattle, with a location roughly bounded by Interstate 5 on the west, Interstate 90 on the north, Rainier Avenue South, Chiste Boulevard South, and Martin Luther King Jr. Way South toward the east, and the southern edge of the city farther down. That geography puts it near major movement corridors while still giving it a distinct hilltop identity. For food and design, Beacon Hill has the advantage of street-level visibility, neighborhood-scale texture, and a built environment that feels connected to several parts of Seattle at once. Walk Score gives Beacon Hill an 81 in 2026, which helps explain why its food and design energy can be experienced block by block. Beacon Hill's relevance here comes from the combination of food and design, rather than one overshadowing the other. It has the kind of urban layout where small visual choices stand out: storefronts, signage, renovated spaces, and the rhythm of businesses along the street. In a topic like new food, fashion, and design, that matters because trends often spread through visible everyday places, not only through big destination openings. Beacon Hill earns number 4 by feeling connected, grounded, and visually active. It also benefits from being close to multiple Seattle reference points, without feeling like a copy of downtown, Capitol Hill, or the waterfront. The neighborhood's hilltop position and its relationship to Rainier Avenue South and Martin Luther King Jr. Way South give it a particular urban frame. Food energy here can interact with commute corridors, local streets, and the broader South Seattle landscape. That mix keeps Beacon Hill firmly in the conversation. Number 3 is Tacoma. Tacoma moves the countdown beyond Seattle city limits, and that is exactly why it belongs near the middle. It is the county seat of Pierce County, a port city on Puget Sound, roughly 30 miles from Seattle and Olympia, and about 58 miles northwest of Mount Rainier National Park. That setting gives Tacoma a strong design vocabulary, waterfront industry, civic buildings, older commercial blocks, and a city-scale identity that is not trying to be a Seattle neighborhood. For food and design, Tacoma has enough physical presence to create its own scene, rather than simply orbiting Seattle. The design angle is especially important here. Tacoma's port city character gives it a different visual texture from Seattle's hill neighborhoods or lake-adjacent districts. Food culture in a place like this sits against a backdrop of warehouses, downtown blocks, waterfront infrastructure, and regional history. Walk Score gives Tacoma an 84 in 2026, which supports the sense that its creative districts can be explored at street level rather than only by car. Tacoma ranks above several Seattle neighborhoods because the topic is Greater Seattle, not just Seattle proper. When you include the suburbs and nearby cities, Tacoma becomes a serious contender for anyone tracking how food, fashion, and design spread across the region. Its scale allows for more than one creative pocket, and its Puget Sound location gives the city an atmosphere that is recognizably Northwest, but not interchangeable with Seattle. Number 3 feels right, because Tacoma is big enough, visually distinct enough, and food-focused enough to change the shape of the countdown. Number 2 is Lake City. Lake City lands at number 2 because it brings food and design into a very practical, street-oriented Seattle setting. Located in Seattle, it represents the kind of neighborhood where the creative conversation is tied to daily corridors, rather than postcard scenery. Walk Score gives Lake City a 91 in 2026. And for this topic, that matters, because food, storefront design, and visual trends are easiest to notice when the area works well on foot. Lake City's ranking is driven by that combination of accessibility, food emphasis, and design presence. What makes Lake City interesting is that it does not need a waterfront headline or a famous skyline view to compete. Its energy is more corridor-based, with the kind of street activity where food businesses, retail presentation, and neighborhood design choices can shift the feel of the area over time. For a countdown about new food, fashion, and design, that is a major advantage. The creative signal here is not about being ornamental. It is about visible use. Lake City also shows how Seattle's design story can happen outside the most talked-about central districts. A neighborhood with a high Walk Score can make small changes feel more noticeable because people encounter them at sidewalk speed. New food concepts, updated interiors, sharper storefront identities, and changing visual styles all have more impact when they sit along the corridor people actually navigate. That is why Lake City climbs all the way to number 2. And number 1 is Everett. Everett takes the top spot. And yes, this is the surprise. It is the county seat and the most populous city in Snohomish County, about 25 miles north of Seattle, and one of the main cities in the metropolitan area and the Puget Sound region. That combination gives Everett a regional role, not just a suburban label. For new food, fashion, and design, it stands out because it has its own civic center of gravity, its own waterfront context, and enough urban structure to support a creative identity separate from Seattle. The walkability number is striking too. Walk Score gives Everett a 95 in 2026. For a food and design countdown, that is highly relevant because a strong pedestrian environment helps people notice visual changes, compare storefronts, and connect restaurants, shops, and public spaces in one continuous experience. Everett's design story is tied to being a real city within the region, with older urban bones, Puget Sound geography, and a downtown environment that can carry more than one kind of trend at once. That is why it pushes past the expected Seattle picks. Everett at number 1 also expands the way we talk about Greater Seattle style. The strongest creative energy is not always located where the regional spotlight usually points. A city north of Seattle can still be deeply connected to the metro area, while expressing food, fashion, and design in its own way. That unexpected combination is what makes Everett the winner. So the countdown finishes like this. Magnolia at number 5, Beacon Hill at number 4, Tacoma at number 3, Lake City at number 2, and Everett at number 1. Together, They show 5 different versions of the Greater Seattle creative map: scenic design, hilltop corridors, port city texture, street-level food energy, and a northern city that really did surprise us at the top. The biggest takeaway is that new food, fashion, and design around Seattle are not locked into one neighborhood or one style. They move through the whole region. What did we miss? Which Seattle area neighborhood, suburb, or specific food, fashion, or design spot would have made your personal top 5? And what would you have ranked higher? If you enjoyed the countdown, give the video a like and subscribe for more Seattle neighborhood deep dives. And tell us what you want next. Another creative district ranking, a food-focused episode, or a closer look at one neighborhood from today's countdown.